Good day, my dear friends. Today, let us embark on a journey toward understanding one of the most profound and liberating practices, self-acceptance. Imagine carrying a heavy bag filled with stones everywhere you go. With each step, the weight burdens you, slowing your pace and sapping your energy. Self-rejection and harsh judgment are like these stones. They weigh down our hearts and minds, preventing us from experiencing the peace and joy that life offers. Together, we will explore the path to self-acceptance, drawing from the wisdom of Buddhism, inspiring stories, and practical lessons. Let us begin this conversation as fellow travelers on the journey to inner peace. Self-acceptance is not merely liking oneself or ignoring flaws. It is about embracing our entirety, the good, the bad, and everything in between. It is recognizing that our worth is not diminished by our mistakes or imperfections. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from our attachment to what we think we should be, rather than accepting who we are. He said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Consider this. When we stand before a mirror, we often focus on what we perceive as flaws. But the mirror reflects the whole of us, not just the parts we criticize. Similarly, life calls us to see ourselves fully, without judgment. Let me share the story of Angulimala, a notorious bandit during the Buddha's time. Angulimala lived a life of violence and despair, earning his name by wearing a necklace of fingers taken from his victims. One day he encountered the Buddha, who calmly addressed him, saying, "Stop, Angulimala." Angulimala was struck by the Buddha's fearlessness and compassion. That encounter led him to renounce his violent ways and become a monk. Despite his past, Angulimala found redemption and peace through self-acceptance and the transformative power of the Buddha's teachings. This story reminds us that no matter how far we may stray, self-acceptance can guide us back to a path of peace and purpose. It begins with acknowledging our mistakes, forgiving ourselves, and committing to growth. Why do we struggle with self-acceptance? In our modern world, we are bombarded with messages of perfection. Social media, advertisements, and even our own expectations paint an idealized picture of who we should be. This constant comparison breeds self-doubt and rejection. But let us ask ourselves, who sets these standards? And why do we give them power over our peace? Buddhism teaches that comparison is a root of suffering. The Buddha likened it to drinking salt water. The more we indulge, the thirstier we become. True self-acceptance lies in turning away from external validation and finding contentment within. Self-acceptance is a practice, much like meditation. Here are 3 steps to cultivate it. Awareness. Begin by observing your inner dialogue. Notice how you speak to yourself. Are your words kind or critical? Awareness is the first step to change. Compassion. Treat yourself as you would a dear friend. When you stumble, offer understanding rather than blame. Remember, even the Buddha faced challenges on his path to enlightenment. Gratitude. Focus on what you have rather than what you lack. Reflect on your strengths and the lessons you have learned. Gratitude shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance. The lotus flower is a powerful symbol in Buddhism. It grows in muddy waters, yet emerges pure and beautiful. The lotus teaches us that our struggles and imperfections are not barriers to growth, but the very conditions that nurture it. Just as the lotus transforms mud into beauty, we can transform self-doubt into self-acceptance. When I first became a monk, I struggled with feelings of inadequacy. I compared myself to senior monks and felt unworthy of the robe I wore. My teacher noticed my struggle and shared this wisdom. The river does not compete with the tree, nor does the tree envy the mountain. Each fulfills its purpose, and so must you. These words stayed with me, reminding me to embrace my unique journey rather than comparing it to others. Mindfulness is a cornerstone of self-acceptance. It teaches us to live in the present moment, free from judgment. When we practice mindfulness, we observe our thoughts and emotions with curiosity rather than criticism. This creates space for self-acceptance to flourish. Let me guide you through a simple mindfulness exercise. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. As you inhale, say to yourself, "I accept myself as I am." As you exhale, release any judgment or tension. Repeat this for a few minutes each day, and notice the shift it brings to your mindset. Let us turn to another story from Buddhist tradition. A woman named Kisa Gotami sought the Buddha's help after losing her only child. She was consumed by grief and unable to accept her loss. The Buddha told her to bring him a mustard seed from a household that had never known death. Kisa Gotami visited countless homes, but found none untouched by loss. This journey helped her realize that suffering is a universal experience. Through this understanding, she found the strength to accept her grief and begin healing. This story teaches us that self-acceptance is not about denying pain, but embracing it as part of the human experience. It is through this acceptance that we find peace. Allow me to share another personal journey. In my early years as a monk, I was often impatient with myself. I wanted to master the teachings quickly and felt frustrated when progress seemed slow. My teacher once asked me to plant a sapling and water it daily. "But teacher," I protested, "this tree will take years to grow." He smiled and replied, "Exactly. Growth takes time. Water it not with haste but with care, and trust the process." Over time, I saw the sapling grow, not because I rushed it, but because I nurtured it consistently. That tree became a daily reminder that self-acceptance requires patience and trust in our own pace of growth. The Bodhi tree, under which the Buddha attained enlightenment, stands as a symbol of awakening. But before it became a symbol of enlightenment, it was just a tree. No one gave it a second glance until it became associated with the Buddha's journey. This reminds us that greatness lies not in how others perceive us, but in the quiet, persistent work we do within ourselves. Under your own metaphorical Bodhi tree, you too can find enlightenment if you nurture the soil of self-acceptance. As we conclude, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. What are the stones you carry? What would it feel like to set them down and embrace yourself fully? Take a moment each day to practice self-acceptance. Let it be the foundation upon which you build a life of peace and purpose. If this message resonates with you, I encourage you to join our community by subscribing to this YouTube channel. Here, we explore wisdom, mindfulness, and personal growth together. Share this video with someone who might benefit from it, and let us create a ripple of change. Remember, like the lotus, you have the power to rise above the mud and bloom. Embrace your imperfections, for they are the soil in which your growth begins. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. May your journey be one of self-acceptance and serenity.